LeBron, shouldn't you be more deferential to the Miami Heat? You wouldn't be who you are. You had no championships prior to getting here. You would not be him without us. And he's like, pause. I was going to be who I was no matter what. The questions that I have are, is this a one-sided relationship? Who gained more from this? And what kind of things can we take away from this in medicine? Does med school make the doctor? Does the doctor or the med student make themselves? Hey, we talk about locum tenens a lot on this show. Renee and I, we've been doing it for well over 10 years now. So if you're curious about locum tenens and how it might fit into your career, check out locumstory.com. That's locumstory.com, and you'll see all the different reasons why physicians choose locums and how it works for them. Find out about jobs, taxes, travel, and to me, most importantly, pay. Visit locumstory.com to learn more. What's good, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Docs Outside the Box. I am your host, Dr. Nee. I'm joined by my lovely co-host,
Dr. Renee.
Keep it going, keep it going. Hey. So now that you got your mic right, listen, guys, real quick. I want y'all to know. Shout out first. Let's shout out the people who are listening on YouTube, or excuse me, watching on YouTube, as well as people listening on their favorite podcast app. We appreciate all of y'all. But I'm telling you, there's a lot of work that goes into making sure we got the proper equipment and making sure that the prep is on point, so that when we are recording here and talking to y'all and y'all are hearing us, that everything's okay. So me and Renee literally had like.
Anyway,
we went to war over something as small as how far away the mic should be.
You didn't even let me set it up. You didn't even let you didn't even let me set it up. You're like, "Oh, your mic is too far." I'm like, "I didn't even bring the mic over yet," to the point where you're now saying that it's too close or too far, whatever it is. And I'm just like, "I didn't even set it up yet." No. You're not going to get away with that. You're not going to get away with that.
Get your shit off. Get your shit off of me. What else you want to say? Go ahead.
I already said what I got to say.
You have anything else to say?
No, that's all.
It seems like you got a lot on your mind. Yo, what's up, everyone? Yo, we're excited. Listen, this episode, we're going to talk to y'all about what you can learn from LeBron James and how he moves. Also, before we jump into that, let's answer a quick comment that we get from Textiful. So guys, Alfred, if you can put the text number of how you can reach us, how the audience can reach us, and let us know what you're thinking. Do you like an episode? Do you not like an episode? All you have to do is hit the number before, text us, and let us know what you think. So Dr. Kathleen,
it's in the show notes.
Dr. Kathleen wrote to us. She says, "I'd love to hear about the mission trip that you and your wife went on in the summer." And I was like, yo, did we do an episode on that? And I was going through the list, and I was like, there's not a specific episode that's dedicated to that. But what we did, Dr. Kathleen, is if you go to episode 374, we actually did, so it's all replay episodes, right? But that one is a replay episode with Travis Hornsby. But the first 5 minutes is is us actually introducing what it's like to be in Ghana from Renee's perspective of taking care of the kids. Usually me and her are lockstep. She's actually running the mission. She's the point person for the mission, and then I'm operating. This is the first time that, she can't do that, and she's just taking care of the kids. And we just kind of talked about what her perspective would be like. And I think that's interesting. So make sure you check out 374, guys. It's a short, but it's very sweet what we talk about. And it's got me thinking, Renee, that maybe what we should be doing is we probably should do a really full, fleshed out, post-mission episode on that.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Kathleen, for giving me more work than what I had originally anticipated. But that's okay.
Content over everything.
That's okay.
Man. Content over everything. And that's the way how it works.
See, Dr. Kathleen don't understand how I got to deal with you.
She giving
me extra work, and she doesn't even understand the implications of her request. You know what I'm saying, Dr. Kathleen? That ain't right.
Give the people what they want. Dr. Kathleen,
that ain't right,
thank you for
Dr.
writing
Kathleen.
in.
Don't let me catch you in these streets.
Renee, you almost, let me not tell your age. Like, you're going to pop a hip. Please. You don't know how to fight.
Anyway,
okay?
Shut up, Nee.
And let's move on to someone who also is elderly in terms of basketball years. And that is young LeBron James, my favorite basketball player, my GOAT, My man, that's my dude, man. So everybody, y'all know, if you don't know, I love the NBA for so many different reasons. But for the sake of this conversation, the reason I love the NBA is I really like the way the athletes move in comparison to how, they are with the owners, right? I really like that relationship between, the athletes. Yes, they're employees, right? They're employees of the National Basketball Association, specifically of their specific teams. But then you have the owners who are the employers. But it's really, it's really more than just a normal employer-employee type of relationship, right? People are there to see the athletes. And it's more than just like the NFL where people will show up and watch the team no matter what, right? Well, whoever's playing, people are just going to show up. For the NBA, people want to see LeBron James. People want to see Kevin Durant. People want to see Steph Curry. Like there's a cachet to just seeing them and so forth. More so than just anybody showing up with a jersey on their back. So I like
Iman Shumpert.
Yeah, like you can't be a scrub like that. But that's the real one of the big reasons why I like the NBA so much is like when you are a generational talent, like who we mentioned, like people will pay exorbitant fees to come and see you. And recently, LeBron James is with the Lakers. He's having a successful tenure with the Lakers. But you remember 5 years ago, he was with the Miami Heat. From 2010 to 2014, he was with the Miami Heat. He won 2 championships there. He did great there. And then he left and he's with the Los Angeles Lakers. But now, they play each other twice a year and so forth. So on his way back to Miami to play, a reporter asked him like, hey, can you let us know about the things that you gained, the things that you learned, from being at Miami? And before I tell you what he said, there's this thing called Miami Heat culture, Renee. Miami Heat culture is like the way in which they take pride in how they run their organization, right? Like from the top down, from Pat Riley down, they are very excited to have a structure that makes a lot of sense, right? One person is making the decisions. It's not run by the athletes. They oftentimes say the inmates aren't running the prison, basically, so to speak. But they have a very strong organizational sense, right? And I lost my train of thought. Give me 1 second. Wait a minute. So I'm back. The mantra says it is the hardest working, best conditioned, most professional, unselfish, toughest, meanest, nastiest team in the NBA. That's the core of the Miami Heat, right? So when they asked LeBron James, what's it like to go back to Miami when you learned all this stuff? Tell us what you think. He says, I think I would still be at this level no matter what if I came here or not. Let's not get it twisted. The 4 years I was there or here, it was amazing. I loved everything about it. Love this franchise. This franchise is top tier. It's one of the best franchises in the world. But as far as my career was going to be my career as far as individually, because I know how much I put into the game. I know how much I strive to be as great as I can be. But as far as what I was able to learn, here was second to none. That's for sure. Right. So basically, hey, tell us about how you feel about your tenure in Miami. Did you learn a lot? Did you gain a lot? And he's like, listen, Miami was a pit stop. I learned a lot, but my career is my career. Then he says, when I was 25 years old, when I came here, I was still a kid, even though I was 7 years in. I came here for a reason and one reason only, to win championships. That's my only goal. That's the only reason why I teamed up with D Wade and Bosh, because I felt like I couldn't do it in Cleveland. I tried to recruit guys to come to Cleveland, tried to go and help upstairs. And what he means when he says upstairs is the front office, and it wasn't happening. So I had an opportunity to be a free agent and did what I thought was best for my career. So prior to getting to Miami, LeBron had 2 regular season MVPs. It's a big deal. 1 finals appearance, big deal. No championships, right? So that was his resume. People are like, oh, he gets all these stats, but can't win the big chip. Miami, prior to getting to LBJ, won championship in 2006. And basically afterwards, just 2 playoff appearances. Once he left Miami in 2014, 2 championships, 2 finals MVPs, 4 straight finals appearances, 2 regular season MVPs. After he left Miami, Miami for 5 years really wasn't doing anything. So very successful career, I think, or a very successful tenure for both of for LeBron and the Miami Heat when he was there. So this caused a lot of backlash. This is like a month old. This caused a lot of people, either in sports media or even other people saying, well, one, LeBron, shouldn't you be more deferential to the Miami Heat? Like, you wouldn't be who you are. You had no championships prior to getting here. You won 2 championships, and we kind of launched you basically into where you are right now. You would not be him without us. And he's like, pause, pump those brakes. I was going to be who I was no matter what. Y'all gave me the stability, but listen, this is more of like I gave you something, I got something out of this, and it's a big issue. So the questions that I have are, is this a one-sided relationship? Who gained more from this? Should it be more deferential to the he culture? And what kind of things can we take away from this in medicine, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does med school make the doctor? Does the doctor or the med student make themselves? Right? There's a lot to unpack from this. Thoughts?
Well, so wait, I want to know what you think. Do you think he should have been more?
Should I go first?
Yeah, I want to know. Yeah, I want to know what you think. Do you think he should have been more deferential or?
I'll be really honest with you. My man is in rarefied air. Like there's just the access that he has, the skills that he has. Like there's only like 2 or 3 people who are maybe at that level. I'm going to say, no, he should not have been as deferential. The reason he is who he is, the reason why he's as great as he is and as successful as he is the way how he thinks. And at this point, he's almost about to be 39 years old. How he moves is the reason why he's so successful. So if he doesn't want to be more deferential, then that's just the way how it is. But you can't deny the fact that Miami was needing something, at a certain point, and he provided that. And then it went the opposite way also. He needed a stable team. So I think, no, he should not have been as deferential. I think he handled it perfectly. It was a great place for me to kind of grow, but also at the same time, I brought these skills that nobody else has, and I brought you all over the top. Boom, And I think the big issue that I think a lot of people have, even in sports media, is there's, when I said rarefied air, the reason I started off of that is it's very rare that you have an employee who can affect an organization, the majority of organizations, the way how he did, right? Completely change the trajectory of something. You leave and all of a sudden they have banners that they will stay there forever. And everybody will say that banner was there mainly because of the contributions of you. Like that doesn't happen that often, right? So I think a lot of people don't really understand that whole concept of, well, look, I know I'm employed by you, but this is really more of a partnership. Right. Than really I work for you, I punch in and I punch out, and then you tell me what to do and go from there. It's different. But also at the same time, most people don't play basketball, right?
Well, yeah, no, but within certain industries, right? Like we have to kind of keep it within the context, right, of the industry. So when we're talking about medicine, it's like, well, most people don't do medicine. But, would we see something like this in medicine? So that's really the question.
I do. I do think we see something like that in medicine. So, okay, the way how I look at it is going through medicine is almost like, you're familiar with the NCAAs and so forth, right? Like, so you have like pre-meds. Pre-meds are like, that's when you go to like AAU tournaments, right? Like you're not in college yet, you're in high school. But pre-meds, they're not in medical school, but they are trying to get into medical school. So they're trying to get their grades up. They go to conferences, they go to all these different things. They're doing the work, right? They're putting in the reps, right? They're taking MCATs and all those different things. That's on them, right? So that's similar to like the AAU thing. Then when you get into medical school, now we're talking about you're in the NCAAs. Like there is no way around this. You got to go through either your year and then you have to get drafted, right? So that time of being in the NCAAs, getting drafted is very similar to being in medical school and then getting drafted to go into residency, right? You don't have much control of where you're going to show up. You think you do, but you really don't, right? But during that time, you're still putting in more reps. You're learning from your attendings. You're learning from professors. You're learning your clinical skills as a resident. You're learning what to do from your attendings, what not to do. Right. And then afterwards, you're on your own. Right. Then like you kind of are as a physician, just kind of doing the things that you normally do to make yourself an amazing doctor. Not many people can do what you do. And the question is with the majority of doctors going into like an employer type relationship where they work for a hospital, is it really a partnership or is it a traditional employee-employer type thing? I think it's more of like a partnership, but I do think that there's a perspective that
should be a partnership or that it is in its current form a partnership.
Man, it ain't no partnership. I'll be really honest. Guys, it's not a partnership, but it doesn't mean that you can't make it a partnership. It doesn't mean you can't make it a partnership. I think you have to do the work to make it a partnership.
You're saying it should be a partnership.
I think
Yeah, I
people who are
think
listening, wait, let me just say, I think people who are listening to this, if you're not an attending already, I think a lot of med students, I think a lot of residents go in thinking that it's going to be a partnership.
yes, I
And
think so too. And I think
yeah,
they're disillusioned when they get in, like, oh wait, like, you know, we say it often on the podcast, you know, like you're a cog in a wheel, right? You're a butt in a seat. Because while no, not everybody's a doctor, not all doctors can do what other doctors can do. Those doctors who can do what you can do within your industry essentially make you interchangeable, at least in the eyes of a facility, right?
that's
Like,
a
so
physician
a
shortage,
doctor,
Renee.
there is a physician shortage, but guess what? You know, I mean, if Dr. Darko leaves and she's no longer delivering babies at this hospital, we go and get, you know, somebody else in her stead. Like that's just what we do. Right. And, you know, the thing is, so I will say that the only place where I think that something similar to LeBron James is a possibility is actually in the, you know, MD, PhD, DO, PhD, basically the researchers in the researchers realm. And the reason that I say that is because majority of people who are kind of, you know, doing research, right? So we're just talking about people who are researchers in medicine. Majority of the people who are doing research can pretty much go to, you know, all different types of institutions and potentially do some sort of research there, right? They have to make sure that they can get the grants. Once they get the grant, right? Because the only way that the institution can get the grant is if they hire the you know, the right person who can get the grant. And let's face it, lots of people got grants, right? Like, so getting a grant, while it's, you know, it's not to diminish the accomplishment of getting a grant, but getting a grant isn't like a once in a lifetime thing, right? So lots of people have grants. Now, every now and then you get people who work for an institution, they got the grant, they did everything that they have to do, and they start doing their research, they start executing on their project, and they make an amazing discovery.
Right.
They make an amazing discovery. It's like, oh my God, right? So when you go to PubMed, right? PubMed is kind of like the NBA, right? There's all these things going on, right? In the NBA.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. In the NBA, there's a lot of games
I
going
was stretching.
on.
I thought I was stretching.
No,
Okay, go
listen,
ahead.
just go with me on this one, right? In the NBA, there's a lot of games going on. Everybody's eyes aren't on all of the games that are going on, right? You just know, you know, so Cleveland played this place, you know, California played that place, whatever, right? So all these games are going on during the season. And then there's the championship where you're like, no, everybody now has said, okay, our eyes are all going to be glued on this, you know, 7-game series if it gets to that long, right? Same thing in medicine. If you go to PubMed, there's a lot of papers there, right? A lot of papers going on. Sometimes people looking at the papers, some papers not getting as many views as the other papers, but then there's that one paper. There's that one paper that all of a sudden everybody starts talking about. And now all eyes are on that paper. Oh my God, did you read this thing about X, Y, and Z? That elevates not only the researcher, but the institution, you know, at which this researcher has been working. And so I think you can get some of that in medicine, but that's usually, I think, on the PhD side, because when you look at the clinical side, right? When you look at the clinical side, you know, is Dr. Darko, you know, the trauma surgeon, going to be so much greater than everybody else? For those of y'all not looking on YouTube,
Thine
you should see what this
hands
fool.
are pristine. These hands, only
These
God could
hands.
create. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So is Dr. Darko's, you know, technique for, you know, trauma patients who have been involved in a MVA all of a sudden going to make a huge difference, you know, for that particular facility? Probably not, right? Because you can bring in another trauma surgeon if Dr. Darko is not there. Same thing, Dr. Darko, the OBGYN. And if I don't deliver a baby, they'll get somebody else to deliver the baby, right?
So you think clinically that's been commoditized, basically? Like your skills
Yes.
from a clinical standpoint are like a commodity, like.
Yes.
You can get anybody
because
to do
we're
that.
all well trained, right? For the most part, right? Yeah. Every now and then you're going to have somebody who's like, nah, like, these are some gifted hands, right? We talk about Ben Carson, right? Gifted hands. It's like, yo, he did this amazing thing. And then you're also going to get people on the other end of the spectrum who's like, yeah, this person should never touch a patient, right? But other than those outliers, pretty much everybody is on equal footing, I would say. Pretty much everybody's on equal footing for the most part. So you don't get a lot of that on the clinical side in medicine. But what I will say is, if you think about, right, you just mentioned some things about LeBron James, and you said he spent 7 years in Cleveland,
right,
didn't win a championship. So right. Miami didn't bring LeBron James knowing that he could win a championship. He didn't win one. He hadn't proven himself yet. You've been there 7 years, you ain't win a championship. So now I'm going to bring you to Miami.
But you've been to a finals.
You've been to finals, but you haven't won a championship. So the question is, just like LeBron was when he was in Cleveland, right? Even though he was a great player, everybody knew, yes, he was a great player, but still hadn't won a championship. He wasn't GOAT material yet. Okay. Even though people thought he had the potential. So just like that, the question is, what made Miami want LeBron? Because they wanted him. So there was obviously something else besides just I play good ball that brought LeBron to the table, that got him a seat at the table. And personally, I think he knew exactly how to, what did he say? Talk to the people upstairs. He knew exactly who to bring and where to put them, right? He knew to structure a team, right? Like he understood building a team. And that, I think, is what made the difference. He sold himself on these other skills that he had. And that's what I think, honestly, a lot of physicians, clinical physicians need to do is you need to sell yourself on other skills, because if you come in here telling me, oh, I delivered the greatest baby ever, it's like, so? Because when you're not here, I'm going to just get somebody else to deliver the greatest baby ever.
Get into specifics. What do you mean? Like, what do you mean? What other skills are you talking about that a doc could bring in?
So for example, right, in terms of, right, doing locums. So we like to do locums, right? And the way that I market myself in terms of locums is not just, oh, I could come here and I can deliver, but I market myself very, very specifically to, I niche myself to a practice who the physicians in that practice really need time off. And I make them think about, the times that they wanted time off and they couldn't get it. The time that they wanted to go to the recital, couldn't go. Wanted to go to the basketball game, couldn't go. Wanted to go to the wedding, to the funeral, couldn't go. So I really, really push that part of why I do locums, right? Not just that I'm looking to work 1 week in a month. Yeah, that's for me, right? That's for me. But what's in it for them? Right. And I think you have to really think about, what is that niche thing? What is that very special thing that you can bring to a facility, that you can bring to a practice that will make people think about you beyond the fact that you are just another body who could do exactly what they could do.
All right, y'all. This is Dr. Nee. I've been doing locum tenens trauma surgery for well over 10 years, and I haven't looked back since. Best combination of lifestyle and income that I could ask for. Now for you, your needs, your wants, that's going to be different than mine. Maybe you want more control over when you work or even how much you work. Or, look, you're just trying to make more money to pay off those damn student loans. Now the other thing is, pay attention. The average locums doc gets paid at least 33% more than your average employed doc. Got your attention now? So look, I get it. Sometimes the hardest part is, where do I start? You start your research at locumstory.com. Once again, that's locumstory.com. It's an unbiased educational resource about locum tenens. There, you're going to find stories about the different reasons why doctors choose locums and how it works for them. Locumstory.com has tools that let you explore locums pay, demand for your specialty, and even compare different locum tenens agencies. So look, stop sitting on the fence or just thinking about it. Start doing. Do your own research at locumstory.com. Once again, that's locumstory.com. It's easy. So it's funny you mentioned that. And I think one thing that I didn't mention is there is in the industry, there's an underlying notion that there's beef between Pat Riley and LeBron. And the main reason that there's beef and the main reason why LeBron may not be as deferential to Pat Riley is a lot of the freedoms that LeBron James had in Cleveland, he wasn't able to have in Miami. The ability to go and speak to the front office and get things changed just like that, he wasn't able to do, right? Like you're going from an organization, the Cleveland Cavaliers, that has been trashed for decades, right? They haven't been anything. So now you have this person who's supposed to be the second coming. They capitulated a lot of their decision-making to him. And actually, he was right? But they capitulated a lot of decisions to him. Now he goes to Miami. They've already won a championship before. The Miami Heat culture, he doesn't have that ability to say that. And that actually caused friction. Where I think docs can actually learn, where I think people can actually learn from this is, I agree with you to some extent. I actually think the moves that he made, irrespective of the things that he does outside, moves that he made financially, like taking less of a contract, taking less years so that he can make sure he builds a team with D Wade and Chris Bosh. Like that's a move that I think people need to learn from. Maybe you should take less so that the long-term effects of you making more money, or at least controlling your career more, people can't control you. Like you can exit out of a contract earlier. I think that's one thing to take from that also. I also think I agree with you with the whole team building thing, but I don't know if they really appreciated that. But I do know when he left and went to Cleveland, back to Cleveland, the ability for him to team build, the ability for him to understand stability, that really, really took them to a next level, because he went to 4 straight finals with the Cleveland Cavaliers afterwards and won a championship with them. And then he went to the Lakers and did the same thing. So I do think that, once you graduate from residency, I do think there's a lot of things that are just on you. Your career is on you. How you determine how you show up, how you operate, how you take care of patients, the successes and the failures, all of that stuff is on you. There are times when I talk to people and I say, I feel like you need to have your career, it's almost like you're driving on a highway and you need to be in your own lane. There shouldn't be anybody in front of you. There could be somebody in back of you who wants to be just like you, but there shouldn't be anybody in front of you. And I do think that you need mentorship, right? Someone who's been through the process to kind of show you the way.
They're alongside you.
They alongside in their lane. You can't be following them, right? And I'm going to be honest with you. I think sometimes that leads to a lot of people getting burnt out, right? Because they try to fashion their career to fit, you try to fit your non-traditional life, or maybe just things that make you. You're trying to fit that into somebody else's life or someone else's career, or just in general, the traditional career, and it doesn't work. So the expectations that you had getting into medical school are one thing. And then when you get there on the other side, you're like, this is not what I expected. I don't have time for this. Well, the red flags were there. It's just that you missed it along the way. I'm not saying it's anybody's fault. I'm just saying that the red flags were there. So I do think that if you create your own lane, if you decide that I'm going to show up like this, I'm going to work like that, I'm going to carry this much debt, I'm going to, move my career like this in your own lane, that gives you the space to have success. But it also gives you the space to have failures, and it's on your own, right? And I do think that that's really important. So,
yeah, oftentimes I think this is a really good lesson for pre-med students as well as medical students, right?
The AAU students.
The AAU students.
The AAU years, guys.
So I think this is a really good lesson for them, right? Because oftentimes when you're in those years and you're thinking about, okay, it's time for me to go into a program, right? It's, which medical school should I go to? Which residency program do I consider my top choice, right? The reality is there are tons of med schools. There are tons of residency programs around the country. You will be trained. You will be well trained. But you have to make sure that you're going to be well trained. The school cannot put the information into your head. The residency program cannot put the information into your head. Will there be different opportunities at different schools? Absolutely. But just because those opportunities exist, that doesn't necessarily mean that without the capacity to take advantage or to see the advantage in those opportunities, if you don't have that, then those opportunities ain't taking you nowhere, right?
Yeah,
It's kind
so
of
like if like going to being trained at Harvard versus being trained at maybe a community-based or community med school or community-based residency, who's going to be the better doctor, right? Like we don't have any
right.
we don't have any metrics to say that. We just think, oh, well, that person's Harvard, they're trained more. Like that's not the case actually at all.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
That's not the
Exactly.
case at all.
There's really, right. It's kind of like when you look at something and somebody else looks at something and you think, that thing is trash. And that person's like, I'm gonna make $1 million off that thing. Because you couldn't see the $1 million and that person could, that's the difference, right? The thing was there for both of you to take. But one person saw the million, the other one did not. That actually is the thing that I think makes the difference, which is kind of what you were saying, right? It's like, well, yeah, you went to Miami because you saw an opportunity there. But potentially, if there were another place that you could have gone, if LeBron would have gone to another place, it's a very high likelihood that potentially you would have won a championship there, right? So, it's in whether or not you actually see the opportunity and what you can do with it. And what he saw was Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade. And he thought, I see the $1 million here and I'm going to make $1 million out of this.
Yeah, I do think that. So I think one thing that I think he would have been a GOAT in a different way. I don't think he would have had as many championships if he didn't go to Miami. I think that, cause one thing that stability means a lot. And I won't let him off the hook because I still also remember I don't know if you remember, when he first got there, anytime he did an interview at Miami, he always did an interview with Dwayne Wade and even Chris. Yo, what's up with this Zoom thing? Hey, yo,
Zoom did it again.
Y'all, I'm telling you. Y'all should be. This is a reason why you guys should be watching the show instead of listening to it. Zoom is like these AI gestures are just. Let me get back to my point. But they gave him that opportunity to kind of like be protected, but not be protected and so forth. Like at that point, he's got the ire of so many people. He was the villain, but also at the same time, they said, "Look, you could be safe here," and that's important, right? So I think the other thing too is almost like. You be very successful as a physician and then your medical school wants to claim things on you like, oh, we taught you that everything. And, you owe everything to us. And it's like, I think that goes to your point of just saying like, look, you got an opportunity out of school, use every opportunity. But like you just being there and showing up doesn't mean that you're going to get the knowledge. You got to do the work to get that information. Now, one thing I want to ask you is here's a scenario. What if like you're at a top-notch institution and you are coming up with ideas for research, you're doing the research, and the research is like, getting national acclaim. And then you decide that maybe you want to leave and go to another institution, right? Like, where's the cachet at? Is the cachet with you, the person who came up with the idea, the person who's writing the papers, the journals and all that stuff? Or is it just the name that's attached to you? You being at Harvard X, you being at USC, I'm just naming names that are big. You being at University of Miami, you being at Morehouse, all of those different things. Is that more important than you de novo coming up with ideas to do the papers? That's something that's really interesting.
So we see this in medicine. We see this in medicine a lot, right? We see with, who wrote the book, right? Who did the groundbreaking research? Oh, I want that person to come here and be the chair of the department, right? I went to this particular residency program because the person who wrote this book, which is the Bible for my specialty, is at this particular residency program. We do this all the time in medicine, right? And oftentimes in medicine, I will tell you this, while institutions have kind of
be specific.
generic.
What do you mean? Be specific. What do you mean? Like, you mean like do what with?
So, for example,
to the
like in OB, Gabby, right? Gabbe. Dr. Gabby is, I think he wrote the red book or whatever the color the book is, but he wrote a book that's kind of like almost like the Bible of OBGYN. So, So imagine now you go to, you're in a residency program or you're applying for residency and this book, and they're like, yeah, Dr. Gabby, who wrote the Bible of obstetrics, is here, and he is the chair of our department. All of a sudden you're like, yeah, like I want to be at that program because Dr. Gabby, the Bible writer, is here. We do that all the time. I'm sure you have a Bible writer in trauma.
Yeah.
Right. Or several Bible writers, right? Like people who are like, this is the person, this is the person, this is the person.
So the program,
right?
So I did my residency at Grady, but I was with Morehouse, right? Mm-hmm. We're sharing the hospital with Emory, right? And the person who was in charge of Emory at the time literally has one of the biggest, if not the most important textbook in trauma out there. Mm-hmm. I'm not training under that person. I'm training under Morehouse attendings. But I feel extremely well trained coming out from that program, even though I wasn't trained by anybody from Emory. I feel very well trained by the folks at Morehouse, and I'm very proud of that. But yeah, I agree with what you're saying. Like the person wrote the textbook.
I'm sure you've heard that sentiment.
Yeah, right. I see what you're saying there.
I think that happens a lot, right? And in medicine, while there is the generic cachet of institutions, so your Harvards, your Yales, your USCs, right? You're all of those, big institutions, right? Those are kind of the genericized, reputations, right? Where it's like, yeah, it's a good school. It's like, why? I don't know, because it's a good school. The people, it's true though, right? Like, why is Harvard so great? Because it's Harvard. It's like, because everybody said so, right? But the people, the Bible writers, right? The Bible writers are people who are known for very specific things.
Okay.
Right? So, for example, the chair of my department when I was a first year, Dr. Vinceleos, is very well known for his research in maternal fetal medicine. So you say, Dr. Vinceleos, like it's a big deal, so there are certain names that if you hear those names in your specialty, you just know. So that's why I was saying, that, while the institution gives you the opportunities, the name that you make potentially is just for yourself. Right. Is really for you. And that's the cachet that you need to be bringing, not to just that institution, that you started out at, but at different institutions that you're eventually going to go.
Basically, are you going to be are you dope because you wrote those papers, or are you dope because you were at those institutions and wrote those papers?
Exactly. And that's the thing. You can't be dope because you went to Harvard. You got to be dope because you're dope.
Well, some people think they're dope just because they went to Harvard, but I do think that if you're dope, you're going to be dope wherever you're going to be. Right. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the thing we get with LeBron. Like wherever he goes, he's going to be dope. The question is where are you going to be in an environment? You need to go to some place that's going to properly give you the environment for you to succeed. For LeBron, it was Miami. He needed to be there because that was a stable place. They weren't going to let him get away with certain things that he maybe got away with in Cleveland. And then also at the same time, he's in an environment to succeed. Like this is where it's going to succeed. Like for me, doing my residency at Morehouse, like that specific place was what I needed to succeed. I think that if I went to another program, I don't know, but I do think that was the place that I needed to be. I had to go and take care of the app site. Right. I had to go do the research. I had to go do go to the cases and stay up all night and all these different things. But the environment that they gave me allowed me to succeed and not look back and stuff. And I appreciate it. So yeah, basically let's wrap this up. Let's wrap this up, man. So I do think that what you can get from this is that, you got to understand, I think particularly for what we do, is that I do think that, yes, a lot of doctors are going into employee-employer type of relationships, but I do think that you have to look at your career. You have to look at yourself individually as almost as a partner in this relationship once you graduate from residency, right? Like nobody else is going to take care of or nobody else is going to pay attention to your career as much as you are, right? You do, right? And I do think there is something to say about having your own lane. and saying, listen, man, like I know what my attendings have done. I know what my mentor who, has gotten me through X, Y, and Z. I know what he or she has done, but I need to create my own lane. It's going to look different and it's going to be different. And the length is going to be either longer or shorter, whatever it may be, but it's my lane and kind of live in that. Anything you want to add on to this before we end this convo?
I mean, the only thing that I'd add is kind of piggybacking off what you said about being in an environment that is going to help you to thrive. And I think,
yeah, that's important.
I think a lot of times people are going to say, yeah, well, but if you weren't in this environment, then you wouldn't have thrived. But I think that the important part here is to go back to what I said about recognizing what that environment is. Because I think that's where people make the mistake.
Can you recognize that? Hold on. Can you recognize that? Like, because I know you work with pre-meds and you work with people who get into medical school. Can you recognize that on an interview? Can you recognize that on the way how a medical school works? Before getting there, what kind of things can you see?
So quickly, I think yes. No. I think yes. I think actually you can, right? When you're thinking about getting into medical school, you have to start thinking about, well, what environment do you want to be in, right? When I was applying to medical school, and I think you've mentioned this as well, right? The systems-based approach was extremely important. The curriculum was extremely important. For me, I knew I had come from science-based in college, and I was like, that sucks. I don't like it. And I didn't like it, and I just felt like, this is not an environment where I'm going to thrive because I don't like this way of studying. I don't like this way of approaching material.
But you had no clue about, like, I think that's the other thing too, though, but it's like, yeah, they were talking about systems based, but we never did it. I guess for me, I was going to try. Right.
Maybe you want to just try something new, but there was a point at which I think you have to really do enough of your research to kind of know what this actually means. And I think I was pretty confident in knowing exactly what system-based meant before I chose the school that I wanted to go to. And that was very, very intentional. I was very intentional about that. So I think you can. The gift is in recognizing the environment that's going to help you thrive, because just because an environment is going to help me thrive doesn't mean that that's the same environment that's going to help you thrive. So you could have somebody who goes to the Harvard and they did all these things and it's so great, but you go to Harvard and you're just mediocring your way through. Exactly. It didn't work for you. So you didn't have the discernment to know where you were going to thrive. That's a huge part of this. So yes, institutions do give you an opportunity, but again, just because the opportunity presents itself doesn't mean you actually know what to do with it. So you have to go where the opportunities are things that you can take advantage of and go a long way with, because it's not going to happen everywhere.
Keep your eyes open during the interview process, y'all. Make sure you pay attention to what they're saying during the interview process when you go to those med schools. So, because sometimes they be telling themselves without you knowing, or there's red flags and you just don't know. So,
and you don't see it because you focus so much on something else. Oh yeah. I mean, we've seen that. People focused on other way. But this thing is like, but they do that. And you don't like that. Yeah, but they got this. It's like, all right, well, whatever.
All right, y'all. Why don't you let us know? Put in the text below. Go ahead and text us what y'all think. Y'all agree with my approach, or you agree with my thought process? You disagree? I think it's a partnership.
What's going on? Tell us what's going on. Oh, the other thing I was going to say is I forgot. Guys, sign up for our newsletter. Sign up for our newsletter. We're going to put the link in the show notes. Sign up for the newsletter. That way, if you sign up for the newsletter, you can also use the newsletter to contact us. There's going to be a quick little button that says, contact us. It's going to be way easier for you to do that. And sign up for the newsletter so you, myself, and Dr. Nee, we can continue these conversations.
All right, y'all. We're going to catch you guys on the next episode. Let us know what you think in the text. Sign up for the newsletter. We'll catch you guys on the next episode.
Let me catch you in these streets, Dr. Kathleen.
Peace.
Peace.